I'm Kristen, and I grew up in Pennsylvania, but I went to college in Utah. I had a friend Liz who lived downstairs in the apartment building, and my friend Matt, we were in church callings together. Fast forward 6 years, Matt and Liz ended up getting married. I got married, and my husband and our 2 little boys moved to Georgia. Our very first time that we walked, our first morning we woke up, we went to church, and there was Matt and Liz at the church. That evening they had us over for dessert and introduced us to their friends and neighbors, Nisa and Roy. Fast forward 18 years, and our son moves into the same block where Matt and Liz lived with Nisa and Roy's sons. Now when Matt left, he was replaced in his calling at church by someone named Kevin, and my friend Linda, who moved into my building with me, replaced me when I moved out. She grew up with me, and our families have lived there for 40, 50 years. Linda and Kevin ended up getting married. They got married in Washington, D.C. It was a very small wedding. And as soon as my parents walked in the door, my dad said, "Oh, hey, Bruce," because he had known Kevin's parents. Actually, I'm going to move this way over here. In Berkeley, California, in the 60s. In fact, one day when we were on vacation, we drove through Winnipeg, Canada, and there we stopped for church and saw Kevin's family. We didn't even know they lived there. We didn't know they lived in Canada, I don't think. It was a coincidence. So I'm shrinking the world back up so you can see how small it is. I actually lived in Ohio after I left Utah and before I moved to Georgia. And one of the first people I met there was named Nancy. She hooked me up with my roommate, Joy, who ended up being her future sister-in-law because she married Aaron, who is Joy's brother. I spent a weekend with their family, and that's when their mom told me that she used to live in Pennsylvania, close to where we lived, because she took childbirth classes from my mom, and they actually knew each other. Well, later on, years passed, and Nancy and Aaron moved to Georgia. Not in my town, about an hour and a half north, but it actually was the same neighborhood where my sister Joan was living with her family. The very first week I went to that church, I sat with Joni, and someone said, "Oh, hey, Ellsworth girls," and we're like, who would know our maiden name and who would know we're sisters? Ended up being this nice lady named Camille, who had moved from Michigan, where she was friends with our sister Sharon. So that brings us full circle because Nisa and Roy are moving into that congregation where my sister lived with Camille and Nancy and Aaron. They know Matt and Liz, who knows Linda and Kevin. It's really a small world when you think about it. So be kind, because you never know when you're going to have a friend of a friend or meet someone that you haven't seen for 50 years.